Okay, we're back. This is week 9. We are on chapter 7. I'm going to jump right in. And before I get too far in, I want to say that this week we only have one chapter that we're covering for the week. And so that's going to be a little less work for you than usual, which translates into only one quiz, only one chapter to read. Additionally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the quantity, or excuse me, the material, the quantity of the material. Typically, in the past, if we've only had one chapter, I've given the equivalent of 2 class sessions worth of material for that one chapter. This week, however, recognizing that the draft of your financial plan is due this week, I'm going to cut back and allow you some extra time to work on that. And granted, it is just a draft, which means putting together the structure of it, the bones of it, so you can later put the real content in on that structure. I'm not expecting that this time for the draft. However, I would like to see that you've put a little bit of time into it, and some thought, certainly, and effort into building the structure of that you have the files ready. And what I would recommend that you do is, now pay attention, is to put them all into one single Excel file. Okay, all of those files that I gave you templates for in week 6. I would recommend that you put those all into one single file. I honestly don't want to be opening 6 or 8 different files from every single student. So please, if at all possible, try to put those into one single file. It'll be simpler for you in the long run, because you can see information side by side. There are some of those where they're formula based, and the information will need to flow from one to the other, and it's easier if they are all in one single file. Excuse me. So it's easier for you, it's easier for me, and would appreciate if you can do that. And the way to do that, if you're not very familiar with Excel, is to insert a tab, and you can copy the tab, highlight the tab at the bottom, the one that you're wanting to move, and click copy, and then go over to the new spreadsheet, insert, and it'll ask you where it's coming from. I believe that's correct. I actually had to have a. Let me see if I can pull up an Excel very quickly here, because I hate to give instructions, although I use that functionality on a fairly regular basis. Sometimes I don't pay attention. I just do it, and so I don't know the steps. So let me pull up an Excel spreadsheet here and tell you how to do that. Okay, what you would do is you would find the sheet that you want to move. You right click it, and there's an option. There's a list of options that'll come up. On mine, it's the 4th one. It says move or copy ... You would click that, and it's going to give you another option, another window that pops up. It says move or copy, and it says move
Selected sheets, the one that you've just right-clicked, to book. And what that means is that the book means the name of the spreadsheet that you're working on. And so what you want to do, you'd want to have both of the spreadsheets open that you are going to be working with at the same time. And when you click that drop-down arrow, it's going to allow you to select which sheet you want to move it to. Okay, and so you'll have one, obviously, that you're going to want to kind of consolidate all of these into. And so whatever you name that one, that's the one that you're going to highlight here that you'll move it into. And so you select that. You can select before sheet 1, before sheet 2, before sheet 3, or whatever each of them are called. Make sure you rename them after you move them. And the way to do that is to or actually double click the tab. It'll kind of darken it, highlight it, and it'll allow you to change the name. Okay, and so when you do that, it's going to. Oh, sorry. Make sure my video is still live. Okay, good. Make sure you change the name of them, otherwise they may all be sheet 1.
and it won't recognize that. Excel will not recognize that. Or you have the option to move it to the end of the file. Down below, there's a box that says create a copy. If you want to keep the original one and then just move a copy of the sheet to the spreadsheet where you're consolidating everything, you would click create a copy there, and then you just click OK, and that will either send it or create a copy in the new spreadsheet. Okay, so that's the way I would prefer and recommend that you you handle the spreadsheets. And as I said, I want to allow you a little extra time this week to work on that. Even though it is just the framework of the financials, it is very important to get that started. We are, this is now week 9. You have, I'm not sure exactly what week the full financials portion of the business plan is due, but probably four weeks out, maybe from the end of this week is when it will be due. Maybe 5. I'm not sure exactly. But not a lot of time. You need to need to start putting some extra time and effort into that activity. Realize that one is a little bit bigger than the marketing one, probably because of all the numbers that have to be dealt with. And in hindsight, probably should have put that one first instead of marketing, although they're both big. So where I can, I'm gonna try to allow you a little extra time, what would otherwise be viewed as actual class time, and allow you to work on that, because I'm expecting big things. I'm expecting good things from everyone, and so I want to allow for that. All right, but I do want to run through this chapter here. There are a couple of other videos that I posted that were recommended at the back of the chapter, page 208. There are a couple of those that I was able to find. A few of the others you had to actually have a subscription to, and so I could not post those. But I do want to run through a few things here. And another thing I'll mention too is I don't cover every single thing in every chapter. I believe that you can read, you're smart folks, and you can understand all that. So that's not to say that I don't think that it's important if I don't cover it. I do that because I believe that you can read. Hopefully, I would encourage you to keep this book, especially if you plan on going into business or are in business for yourself, or will be working, higher up in an organization of a small business. It's a very good reference tool. It's one of my favorite books that's published out there. It's the reason I selected it for this class. So keep it as a reference tool. So all that to say that there are some things that I want to focus on a little more heavily than others. Again, not to say that the rest of it that I don't focus on is not important. It is. It can certainly be beneficial in putting together your business or in working in another small business. And there are some things occasionally that the authors do not cover, and you'll notice that in the questions on the quiz that result from the videos that I put together. Okay, excuse me. Let's see here. Page 189 starts imitation and innovation, and that's a good section coming off of what we talked about in last week, chapter 5 and 6, and innovation and creativity, and so it talks about the different approaches to innovation and competition, and so certainly be aware of that. Those are good. I won't get into them in too much detail. Those would be good topics for your discussion board. I had to give a talk the other day, and one of the things that we talked about was ideas. The best ideas are stolen, and what that means is there's very little that is new. Okay, and when someone does come up with something truly new, it gets copied very quickly. And I think we've got a chapter in here on law of business. So we'll talk a little bit about protecting your ideas. But as far as creative processes, innovative tools, products, those kinds of things are are honestly rare, and usually they are. And even when they are, they're a combination of other ideas, other products that are already available. So true innovation, true creativity is fairly rare, and that's okay. That's sort of expected that businesses would operate in that way, and that's one of the things that it's talked about in this chapter, in this section here, is that there's some degree of familiarity, some degree of comfort that comes in your clients' minds when they know what it is that you offer. It's not that you don't have to educate them. I worked in an industry where it was a branch off of a traditional industry at one time, and because it was a very different approach. Even though generically they were the same, the way that they went about, this one branch of it went about doing business was very different, and there was a lot of education that had to go on for the individuals that chose to operate in that fashion. Now, many years later, they benefited because they distinguished themselves from others, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. They didn't want to be thought of as doing business in this fashion, this format. They wanted to, they felt that you could do it at a higher level over here by operating in this other certain way, and so that's what you can do in any business. And we've talked about this in several industries already, but it can be applied to almost any industry. So let me be quiet about that for a minute. Okay. One of the this chapter is it's good with information. Um, as far as application, there's not as much as what you'll get from some of the other chapters, um, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to put it in this week to be able to cut things short and allow you time, and so we're not going to go very much in depth. One thing that I do wish that they did a little bit more in depth is the SWOT analysis, and I don't know if you've had access to this in other management courses. Certainly, if you go on and articulate to a four-year university and you take more management courses, you'll be exposed further. You may even have to do a project where you make use of SWOT. That's an acronym, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And essentially, what it is on page 202, you'll see a box. The way this has been represented in the past is just in setting up a box. There we go. With S W O T one in each box, and you identify the strengths of your company. And you may even do it at the industry level first. There's certainly an argument to be made to do that, but then take it down to your specific company level and your abilities and what you can bring to the table in a company if by chance that you're not yet in operation. But what this does, again, I used the words, honest and critical a lot in these videos. But if you are honest with yourself, and if you think critically about the positioning of you and your company, then and be fair, then you can get a lot of good information out of a SWOT analysis. And what this well, the reason is because if you're not honest with yourself, if you're not fair about what your abilities are and what your weaknesses are, if you if you overstate your abilities and you understate which would be your strengths and opportunities, and you understate weaknesses such as competition. Threats would be competition, but weaknesses is maybe knowledge or your lack of experience or lack of dealing with people, and to a lot of things listed here on page 202. If you underestimate those things, then you're not being fair to yourself, and what that can lead to in both cases, and certainly when you combine the two, is in the answer coming back that you are well positioned and ready to do something when you truly are not. And that's not being fair to yourself, because you may put your money at risk, or you may put other people's monies at risk, friends, family, their money at risk in helping you get this business started, when there are things that you didn't account for properly. And again, that's not being fair to yourself. It's not being fair to others, and it's certainly not, investors, potential investors, and it's certainly not fair to prospective employees or prospective employees that you may have. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the video here. I think that glare on my glasses is just not going to go away. So, hope that doesn't bother anyone. Sorry. Um, yeah, and you're not being fair to employees, because if you go into business and you hire someone to help you with your business, and you have unfairly accounted for these strengths and opportunities to the point where you feel like that you are in the best position of any business in the region, or no matter how large that region is that you're considering. And similarly, the weaknesses and the threats, you've underestimated those. Then you may take on employees that you've kind of convinced to come to work for you based on something like this. Mate, you're not going to put a SWOT analysis in front of them and say, "Hey, look at how great we are, and there's just no chance that we're going to fail." Not likely to do that. But at some point along the way, you're likely to, things that you are going to say may come from a SWOT analysis, but the results of a SWOT analysis, and so you pass those along to suppliers, vendors, potential customers, potential employees. And that may leave a job that they were perfectly comfortable in, making good money because of how you've built up your company. Well, it's not, this is what I'm getting at. It's not fair to them to come and work in a situation that is not all that it was made out to be. And that could be recognized in a very short period of time after you open the doors. Okay, but it is a good exercise to go through, and it unfortunately this section is very brief. Would have liked to have seen 5 to 8 pages on it, in helping define, get clearer on what it is, and it kind of drops some information in on the pages to follow, but it's not very detailed. Okay, but suffice it to say, it is an exercise worth going through, and I would recommend that you do that. Whether you're already in business, or whether it's something that you're considering going into, a business that you plan on starting or buying. As we talked in the last chapters last week. And then it's got the different combinations here that you'll want to look at, the ones that rank the highest, I believe it is. The strength and opportunity combination, the strength and threat, weakness and opportunity, weakness and threat, strength, weakness, and opportunity and threat. Understand those, and let's see what else we've got here. Like I said, this is a relatively short chapter with unfortunately one of my least favorites as far as content. So I am going to try to find a video or two on SWOT specifically to kind of give you some more in-depth information and guidance. That's not going to be a requirement for the quiz, certainly. It's not going to be an absolute requirement for your business plan, although I do feel that it could be helpful for you. It's not something that you're going to be counted off for not having included. So that being said, I'm going to end this video now and search for a couple more videos on SWOT. I hope you don't feel cheated that we had a limited amount of content instruction time for this week, but like I said, I do want to give you plenty of time to work on your the draft of your financial plan portion of the business plan, and not just the draft, what you have to submit for this time, but carry on and continue on working on that, as well as the marketing plan. The full marketing plan, I believe, is due the following week, maybe in week 10, if I'm not mistaken, and I have been known to be wrong before. But check back to the syllabus and look to see when those different sections or when the different assignments are due, and make sure that they're not late. I don't want to have to count off points for an assignment being turned in late. So that's all.